Have you ever struggled just to put on a shirt by yourself? Or found yourself in tears trying to reach for a cup on a shelf? If you nodded yes, you might be facing a silent enemy called frozen shoulder. I used to think it was just regular muscle soreness. My mom, a healthy, lively woman in her 50s, suddenly couldn't lift her arm to brush her hair. I watched her struggle, eyes filled with frustration. The pain wasn't just in her shoulder. It spread into every part of her life. We saw doctors, tried medications, massage, hot packs, cold packs. Nothing helped. Until one gentle doctor finally said, "This is a kind of freezing of the shoulder joint. If not treated properly, she could lose full function of her arm." And that was the beginning of my journey into understanding the truth behind frozen shoulder. A condition that millions of Americans are silently suffering from. But here's the good news. You can make a full recovery if you understand it and act at the right time. In this video, you'll discover what frozen shoulder really is. Hint, it's not just shoulder pain. Why injections and painkillers don't actually solve the problem. Natural science-backed ways to treat and heal. And a deeply moving story of someone who reclaimed their life after months of pain. Stick with me till the end, because you might just find the answers you've been looking for all along. Let me tell you about Linda. She's a retired nurse from Michigan. She loved gardening, loved cooking dinner for her husband every evening. But one day, she couldn't even reach up to grab a spice jar, couldn't brush her hair, couldn't put on a jacket without wincing. But more than that, she said she didn't feel like herself anymore. When I met her, she looked me straight in the eye and asked, "Ethan, do you think I can ever be myself again?" And if you're watching this video right now, maybe you've been asking the same question too. Frozen shoulder. It's not just about the joint. It's about losing the ability to do the simplest things we once took for granted. It's waking up every morning wondering, will I be able to move today? It's that quiet fear that the pain isn't just aching, it's stealing your freedom. But I'm here to tell you this, you can heal, your shoulder can move again, and life can feel lighter than it does today. In today's video, I'll walk you through the misunderstood truth about frozen shoulder, why relying on injections or pain meds might make recovery harder, not easier. And most importantly, practical, gentle, and science-backed steps you can start right now. Because you're not just watching a video, you're taking the first step back toward freedom. And I'll be right here with you from the first second to the very last. Let's begin. You know, there are things in life we never think we'll lose until they're suddenly gone. A full embrace, reaching up for a jacket on a high hook, or simply brushing your hair in the morning. Those little things, so normal, so easy to overlook, can feel like luxuries when you're dealing with frozen shoulder. Frozen shoulder. It sounds like a cold medical term from a textbook. But I want you to picture this instead. Imagine your shoulder as a door that once opened effortlessly, smoothly. Then one day, the hinges start to stiffen. Every movement creaks, feels heavy, and eventually, the door jams. It won't budge. That's what's happening inside your shoulder. It's not just weak muscles. It's not just getting older. What's really happening is this. The joint capsule, like a soft jacket that wraps around the shoulder joint, starts to shrink, get inflamed, and stick to itself. The space where your joint moves gets tighter and tighter. Pain creeps in, yes. But even more terrifying is the stiffness. Stiff in the shoulder, and sometimes stiff in the spirit. I still remember Mr. Jim, a Vietnam veteran in his 60s from Arizona. He came to see me after nearly a year of enduring this in silence. He said, "Ethan, I once carried rifles through war zones, and now I can't even tie my own shoes." That's not just physical pain. That's the pain of losing independence, of feeling like a part of your dignity slipped away. Let me ask you this, and think about it honestly. Do you remember the last time you reached out freely? Without hesitation. Frozen shoulder isn't just shoulder pain. It's your body's way of saying, time has passed. You've ignored me. I need your attention now. And if there's one thing I've learned in 2 decades of working with older adults, it's this. When the body speaks, it doesn't want panic. It wants understanding. So where does frozen shoulder go from here? Does it just stop, go away on its own? Or does it get worse if ignored? To answer that, we need to understand its quiet journey, the 3 stages it goes through. And that's exactly what I want to share with you right now. Some conditions don't arrive like a storm. They arrive like winter, slow, subtle. First a little chill, then the cold sets in, and finally, everything's blanketed in stillness. Frozen shoulder is the same. It doesn't happen overnight, but in 3 stages each with a quiet message from your body. Stage 1, the freezing stage. This is when something just feels off. Not sharp, not dramatic, but enough to make you stop mid-movement, raise your eyebrows. The pain comes in waves, especially at night. You toss and turn. Sleep becomes difficult. Fatigue builds. I remember Carol, 62, a retired art teacher. She said, "At first I thought it was from painting too long. I took a break, stopped teaching. But the ache stayed. Then slowly, it felt like someone was taping my shoulder down from the inside." That's exactly what was happening. The joint was freezing millimeter by millimeter. Stage 2, the frozen stage. This is full-on lockdown. The pain might ease, but it's replaced by a frustrating stillness. You can't lift your arm above shoulder height. Can't reach behind your back. Can't clasp your bra, tie your hair, or grab your wallet from your back pocket. It's the stage where many feel like their freedom has been taken away. And sadly, it's also when many people give up. But here's what I've seen over and over on stone. The freeze isn't the end. It's the beginning of a thaw. Stage 3, the thawing stage. Just like spring after a long winter, the sun slowly returns. Your shoulder begins to move again. Motion gets easier. But here's the catch. The thaw doesn't always happen on its own. It needs guidance, the right hands, and your commitment. Someone once asked me, "Ethan, can frozen shoulder go away by itself?" And I answered, yes. But are you really willing to spend 2 or 3 years waiting in pain and frustration? Here's the lesson I've learned. Each stage is a chance to reconnect with yourself. Freezing, a call to listen. Frozen, a chance to accept. Thawing, your moment to act. And wherever you are in that journey, remember this. Don't measure the severity by how much it hurts. Measure it by how much freedom you've lost and how much you want to get back. So now the question is, who's most at risk of stepping into this long, cold season? Is it just older folks? People who sit too much, or is there something deeper? Let's find out in the next part. You know something, frozen shoulder doesn't care if you're rich or poor. It doesn't care if you're a doctor, a farmer, or retired. It quietly finds its way to those who've gone too long without listening to their own body. I used to believe illness was just a matter of fate. But over time, I've realized it's more a reflection of how we live. And if you're asking, am I someone who's at risk for frozen shoulder? Let me share 5 types of people I see most often in my clinic, folks who entered this cold season of the shoulder without even knowing it. 1. People living with diabetes. Take Sylvia, she's 67. She manages her blood sugar pretty well. But what she didn't know is that insulin resistance can affect connective tissues for diabetics. Frozen shoulder doesn't just show up sooner, it heals more slowly. Their body fights recovery, just like it fights blood sugar balance. Do you live with any chronic illness? If so, your body needs double the care and attention. 2. People with thyroid issues. It's surprising how one tiny gland in your neck can affect your shoulder. But it does. Your thyroid regulates hormones, and hormones influence inflammation, swelling, and pain. Grace, a retired secretary, didn't even know she had mild hypothyroidism. It wasn't until her shoulder started locking up that her doctor caught it. Just a gentle reminder, everything in the body is connected. 3. People recovering from surgery or injuries near the shoulder. I remember Daniel, 71. He had just had a knee replacement. A few weeks later, his shoulder stopped cooperating. He had been using crutches, so his shoulders were overcompensating. And slowly, it stiffened. We tend to think injuries are local, but the body moves like a symphony. If one note is off, the whole rhythm shifts. 4. People who've stopped using their shoulders. Maybe you're retired, home most of the day, not lifting grandkids, not exercising. Let me gently say this: if a joint goes unused, the body might take it back. Frozen shoulder can be your body's way of whispering, you've stopped living actively. It's time to return. 5. Middle-aged women, especially during perimenopause. In my clinic, women over 50 make up nearly 70% of frozen shoulder cases. Why estrogen drops? Connective tissue dries out, becomes inflamed, stiffens. But deeper than that, this is a time when many women begin to forget themselves. I once asked a patient, "Do you spend 15 minutes a day just for yourself?" She just looked down and stayed silent. Our bodies need to be cared for the same way we care for everyone else. So, did you see yourself in any of those 5? Maybe you've just had hip surgery. Maybe you're a woman navigating menopause who's never really voiced how it feels. Maybe you're a man who's worked all your life but never paused to notice a twinge in your shoulder. Here's the quiet lesson. Illness doesn't come from far away. It comes from the things we've brushed aside, day by day, until the shoulder won't move and we whisper, "If only I had known." But don't worry, knowing who's most at risk also helps us prepare and stay ahead. Now let's return to the most important question. Do painkillers or steroid shots really help you heal, or are they just paint covering a door that's already rusted shut? Let's find out right after this. I once told a patient, "You're not wrong to feel pain, it's just that sometimes people call it by the wrong name." Over the years, I've seen hundreds walk into my clinic with the same expression, tired, confused, quietly hopeful. They've seen multiple doctors, taken all kinds of meds, tried steroid shots, but still, their shoulder wouldn't move. When I asked, "What diagnosis did they give you?" most answered, rotator cuff, tendinitis, arthritis, muscle tear, or just old age. That's the saddest part. Frozen shoulder is often misdiagnosed because it doesn't scream for attention. It sneaks in wearing the symptoms of more familiar conditions. Why do doctors get it wrong? First, the pain. Frozen shoulder causes deep aching pain that radiates down the arm, just like tendinitis. Second, the stiffness. You can't lift, reach back, or rotate your shoulder. So it often gets labeled as arthritis, especially if you're over 50. I once treated Roger, 65. He was told for 8 months that he had shoulder arthritis. He took pills, did heat and cold therapy, limited his movements. But the more he avoided using his shoulder, the more it froze. When I checked him, it took just a few minutes to know he didn't have arthritis. He had frozen shoulder in the frozen stage. How did I know? Here's something important you should remember. If you have a tear or tendon issue, it hurts when you move, but someone else can still help move your arm. But if it's frozen shoulder, neither you nor your doctor can move it fully. It's like the shoulder has been glued in place, as if your body is saying, "Enough. I don't want to move anymore." The question is, why is something this serious so easily missed? Why do so many get the wrong treatment when a closer look could change everything? I'm not here to blame doctors. They're juggling hundreds of patients and decisions every day. But I do believe this: you have the right to ask, to doubt, to investigate. The quiet lesson here is this: don't hand over your entire body to a slip of paper with a diagnosis on it. Listen to yourself. If something doesn't feel right, find someone who will truly hear you. Because a misdiagnosis doesn't just waste time. It can freeze your shoulder and your life longer than necessary. And once that misdiagnosis is made, most people turn to meds. Or worse, get injections straight into the joint. But the question is, Are those shots really unlocking the shoulder? Or just a fresh coat of paint over a door that's rusting underneath? Let's dig deeper in the next section. I've always believed every body holds a story. And in every story, there's a quiet reminder about choices, about timing, and how we face challenges when they come. Today I want to share two stories with you. Both are kind people, both love their families, and both have experienced frozen shoulder. But they made two different choices and ended up living two very different lives. The first is Paul, 59, from Colorado. He's a part-time carpenter, often lifting wood, sawing, hammering. One day his right shoulder started to hurt. He thought it was just a pulled muscle, but the pain didn't go away. And after a few weeks, he couldn't raise his arm past shoulder height. Instead of waiting it out, he came to the clinic. We diagnosed frozen shoulder in the freezing stage. And the very next day, he started therapy, 2 sessions a week. Simple 10-minute stretches each morning at home. And most importantly, he stayed patient with his body. After 10 weeks, he was back to drilling, lifting, and even rebuilt a garden trellis for his wife. He told me I didn't just get my shoulder back. I got my rhythm back. Now the second story is Diane. 64 years old, retired, living alone in Florida. Her shoulder started freezing nearly a year ago, but she ignored it. Just like many of us do with our emotions, we shelve them hoping they'll pass on their own. She took pain meds, got steroid shots, tried massage heat packs, but each time the pain came back more stubborn, more confusing. By the time she came to see me, she couldn't lift her arm more than 30 degrees. It took nearly 6 months of focused therapy before she could put on a coat without help. I'm not telling these two stories so you compare yourself to them. I'm telling them so you can ask yourself, which one do I want to be more like? What am I putting off, and how much longer will I wait to actually begin? Because here's the quiet truth. It's not how long healing takes that matters. It's when you choose to begin. No one has missed the train. There's only those who haven't stepped on yet. And no matter what stage you're in, that door is still there waiting for you to reach out and open it. And if you are ready but can't make it to a clinic just yet, there are simple, powerful things you can start doing right now, right at home. I'll share with you what truly helps and what to stay away from. Let's begin. Sometimes, healing doesn't begin in a clinic. It begins in the simplest place of all your home, in your kitchen, behind the curtain in your living room, or beside the bed where you've spent sleepless nights aching from shoulder pain. Frozen shoulder doesn't need grand gestures. It just needs small actions done the right way. I remember Henry, 72 years old, from Oregon. He told me, "Ethan, I can't afford to go to therapy regularly, but I'm not about to sit around and let my shoulder die." So he asked me, "Is there anything I can do at home that's safe and actually works?" The answer is yes, absolutely, and plenty. 3. At-home habits that truly help. Heat before movement. Place a warm compress or heating pad on your shoulder for 10 to 15 minutes each morning. It improves blood flow, relaxes the soft tissue, and helps your shoulder listen better when you begin moving. 2. Gentle stretches, no yanking, no forcing. Try the towel stretch. Hold both ends of a towel behind your back like you're drying off after a shower. Injured arm down low, good arm up top, pulling gently. Everyday stretch just half an inch more. No need for big gains, just consistency. 3. Wall walks, finger climbing. Stand near a wall. Use your fingertips to walk your hand upward slowly. When you feel a gentle stretch, pause for 5 to 10 seconds. Then rest. No racing, no pushing. Just a quiet conversation with your shoulder. And more important than any of these is patience. Treat every small session as a soft whisper to your body, "I'm still here. I haven't given up on you." 3. Common at-home mistakes that cause more harm. Overheating and not knowing when to stop. Heat can help, but too much heat or too long can worsen inflammation, especially if there's hidden swelling. 2. Cracking or letting someone manipulate your shoulder. I've seen many patients who let a friend or massage therapist pop or yank their shoulder, only to end up bedridden for a week. Frozen shoulder isn't a lock you can force open. It's an invitation for patience. 3. Stopping all movement out of fear. This is the most common trap. Fear of pain, no movement, more stiffness, more pain, even more fear. It's a silent loop, and it can keep people frozen for years. So if today you're sitting at home feeling stuck, limited, held back, I want you to know something. All you need is a towel, a wall, a warm compress, and a little belief in yourself. That's enough to begin. Here's the quiet lesson. Sometimes it's the simplest things that save us from the complexity of disease. But no matter how committed you are at home, there are times when the shoulder simply won't release, no matter what you try. And when that happens, more serious medical options may need to be considered. Is that the end of the road or the start of a new one? Let me guide you in the next part. There are doors. We push and push, fully committed and gentle every day, yet they still won't open. And then after so long, we have to ask ourselves, is it time to try a different key? I've seen many patients after weeks of therapy exercises, heat treatments, whose shoulders still won't budge. Not because they weren't trying, but because scar tissue and adhesions have formed deep inside like ice too thick after a long, harsh winter. That's the moment to consider more advanced medical help. MUA, manipulation under anesthesia or arthroscopic capsular release. I remember Frank, 66, a retired truck driver. 6 months of conservative treatment later, he could only lift his arm 20 degrees. Pain had faded, but his shoulder was still locked. He couldn't drive himself. Then he underwent MUA under light anesthesia. Doctors gently broke the adhesions. When he woke up, he could lift his arm to shoulder level again. But that was only half the journey. If you think, once I have surgery, it's over, let me be clear. There's no magic if you don't continue your part. Whether it's MUA or surgery, the most crucial part is rehab after the procedure. Skip the exercises, stop moving, and your shoulder can freeze again, even stiffer than before. I once told a patient after his MUA, your body's just been unshackled. But if you don't walk, nobody can walk for you. So how do you know when MUA or surgery is really necessary? Ask yourself, have you pursued active treatment for at least 3 to 6 months? Can you no longer perform basic tasks like dressing, eating, hygiene? Has your pain eased but stiffness remains unchanged? If you answered yes to these, it's time to see a shoulder specialist for a precise evaluation. A small but important lesson. There's nothing wrong with getting help on a deeper level. The only mistake is waiting and doing nothing. So, after everything you've learned and been through, you're probably wondering, where do I start? How do I avoid the wrong path? What should I ask my doctor or therapist to get a real direction? The answer is waiting in the final section, a little roadmap for a big journey. We've walked quite a journey together. From that very first ache in your shoulder, to some of the biggest decisions you may ever make for your healing. And if you're still here watching this right now, I believe you're someone who wants to reclaim freedom in your own body. So, now what? Where do you begin? What's the first step? I'm not going to hand you a checklist. Instead, I want to offer you a perspective, a mindset, and a few powerful questions. First perspective. Prevention isn't about fighting, it's about living alongside. You can't be immune to aging. You can't control every bit of inflammation or scar tissue, but you can live in a way that makes your shoulders want to stay with you. Keep your shoulders moving every day, even if just for a few minutes. Don't ignore the quiet clicks, the light tension. Those are whispers, not shouts. Create simple, conscious movements in your daily life. Reaching, turning, brushing your hair, hugging your grandkids. The more lovingly and mindfully you use your shoulder, the more it stays yours. Second perspective. Healing doesn't come from force. It comes from depth. Frozen shoulder isn't a war to win. It's a reconnection to rebuild. And that journey doesn't need you to fight strain or push through. It needs softness, patience, steady effort. I once asked a patient who made a remarkable recovery, "What helped you heal?" He smiled and said, "I didn't force my shoulder, I invited it to return." And here are 5 questions you should ask your doctor or therapist. Is this really frozen shoulder, or could it be something else? What stage am I in? And how does that impact my treatment plan? Beyond medication, what should I focus on first? If I don't start therapy now, what might happen in the next 3-6 months? Can you show me a few gentle exercises that fit my condition right now? Bring these questions along with a little courage, and I believe you'll walk this path with clarity, not confusion. One last lesson. You don't need to return to who you once were. You just need to become a freer, lighter, more aware version of who you already are. If this video sparked something in you, a question, a decision, or simply the feeling that I'm not alone, then I want to thank you. Because you didn't just watch a video, you opened a door back toward yourself. I'm Ethan Greenwell, and it's been an honor to walk this journey with you. Take care of your shoulder, because it doesn't just lift your arm, it lifts your whole life. If this video spoke to you or made you think of someone you care about, please share it. One simple share might be the start of someone else's healing too.